And so without further ado, I will let Mark hop up on stage and tell his story.
So without further ado, please help me give Jia Jiang a very, very warm googly welcome.
And now, without further ado, let's give a very warm welcome to author Chris Cleave.
Without further ado, Dr. Roth.
We'll talk about. Without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Professor Crawford and FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. We'll find out when the broadcast of that will be as well. And so without further ado, here's Ray Sagarin.
Cool. All right, great to. And without further ado, Daniel Shapiro.
Great, thank you.
So without further ado, let's give Tim a nice welcome.
So without further ado, Michael Linville, the director of chamber music at the New World Symphony.
So without further ado, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Paul Ramsey, who's going to introduce our keynote speaker and also the panelists. And I look forward to learning a lot from all of you.
Meet you. Please join us in the Helm Suite at 1:45 today. So without further ado, Penny Nance.
University. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Professor Levinson.
So without further ado, Skaz is going to go ahead and introduce us to his robot friend.
So without further ado, I'd like to give the time over to Brad. Thank you.
So without further ado, I am delighted to present to you the debut of Performing the Archive.
And so, without further ado, we will proceed to the first presentation by David Roberson.
Degree. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up David Evan Harris.
So without further ado, here's Jordan.
Thank you very much.
So without further ado, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome Derek Thompson.
Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ted to Google. Thank you.